Hello and welcome to the MHR podcast. I'm Alice.
And I'm Andy.
Andy, when was the last time you faked it until you made it?
In what context, Alice? At work? Are we talking? Socially?
We'll go with the work setting first.
Okay. I don't know. There's that. A lot of people say you should just learn as you go, right? I feel like in my career, there's definitely been opportunities where I've definitely not been probably. I've learned on the job. Which I think is part of it, right? I think in every job you should learn as you go and develop. I suppose it's how much you set expectations on what you can actually do before you learn how to do it, right?
Yeah.
I've definitely in my junior career said, yeah, I'll do that's fine, and gone, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to figure it out. But I've benefited from it.
So you're saying you faked it till you made it, basically, to give it a go.
Importantly, I've faked it till I've made it before. Yep. I've also faked it and not made it.
Well, yeah, not every trial is going to be 100%
Sometimes we've been like, yeah, we do,
success.
that's fine, not a problem, and gone, no, that didn't work. Shouldn't have done that.
Shouldn't have said that.
Should have set better expectations on what I could have done there.
So, setting expectations. I know I jumped in with that question, but what I thought we'll speak about on this week's podcast is the idea that what it means to maybe be deceiving on your CV.
All right, so that's a different thing though, right? I think there's a different thing between being in a role already and going, we need to do this, can you do it? And I'll be like, I probably can't, but I'll give it a go. And actually going, I want you to give me a job on something that I don't actually know anything about.
Yeah. So I guess we're probably saying that there might be levels to what deceiving might be. So I would say that you can have white lies. You can maybe emphasize your successes on your CV.
Yeah.
But you're saying, actually, when it comes to it, you either fake it till you make it and prove it,
or...
like you say, not every trial's going to be a success and maybe you flop on your face. So then you lessons learned, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's levels of deception.
Yeah, I think so. So the reason I picked up and I thought it was quite an interesting topic is obviously we speak about recruitment and HR challenges, but actually I think this has cropped up as something that can cost businesses quite a bit of money and they might not be realising. And it's probably a subject that not really picked up on. So, according to an article, and that gives me a stat here, the cost of recruitment fraud is what it's actually known as.
Okay.
Cost businesses 23.9 billion estimated every year.
Are these like formal cases then where someone's gone, actually, we hired you because you said you could do this, and actually it turned out to be rubbish. You've claimed you've had this experience or this knowledge and you don't, and it's cost us money.
Yeah, I think there's, like I say, I think it depends what comes under that umbrella of kind of what is recruitment fraud.
Okay.
But what I found interesting, and I didn't know this, I don't know if you do, but lying on your CV is actually considered fraud under the UK, so it's illegal.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you knew that before, or I've told you now.
I think I've had it in the past where you I don't know, it feels like less of a thing now. But I remember when I was younger, like you were more threatened by making sure everything was as accurate as you could. I suppose it goes back to like how companies reference as well and prove this stuff, or it used to be that, especially when you started a career in one area, if you had qualifications, you had to bring those qualifications in to prove that you had the expertise.
True.
For example, we're looking for someone who has at least a degree in this job. Or X number of years of experience. So you need to prove the years of experience on your CV, but also we need you to bring the qualification in.
The actual
and that'll go in
paper
your file.
certificate.
Yeah. I remember doing that.
Do you know what? I remember doing that for my first job. I literally had to bring in this like A4 folder with my certificates, and it was like D of E.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Back then, when that was like a peak achievement.
I think I remember it more when I was younger because I was stuck in that kind of what seemed like a really difficult spiral at the start of my career, where I came out of a degree and I had no experience, and all the jobs wanted X number of years of experience, but I couldn't get any experience because I couldn't get the job. So it was like, when am I ever? It was always that kind of thing. Like. But I do remember jobs, and I think it's a lot more paperless now, but I remember jobs where I had to come in with the actual qualifications and paper, and my first day HR would take them and photocopy them, add them to my file, and then my proof and my right to work, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I understand how that's fraud if you're lying or manipulating that. I suppose it all goes back down to your interview and your HR processes to make them as slick as possible and to make sure they're enforced.
Yeah.
But I feel like the longer I've got in my career, because it's been backed up by actual experience, the less I've had to prove kind of the backing, because I think the CV starts to speak for itself more, I guess.
Well,
but again, you can lie.
Yeah,
I know people,
true.
I've heard of stories especially where, people have been recruited for, roles in like 10, 15 years, and they'll realise that actually the doctorate that they have that proves that they were an expert and that was completely made up.
Yeah.
And like that's fraud, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
But it's interesting because I think you picked up on it there where, kind of applying for a job CVs, it's all digitalised now, or it at least should be, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
And with that, if it's an efficient process, you should be picking up on kind of what would be as a fake CV or kind of maybe applicants that didn't put in the amount of effort that other applicants have. So it should be making that recruitment manager's job a little bit easier. But also it's easy to apply for a job now. Some jobs you literally one click, can't you, on Indeed, and your CV's there and you've uploaded it and technically you've applied to the job.
And I wonder if like technology is helping actually find those appropriate candidates to begin with. Because if you are a real match, there's less to prove.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think there is a lot of kind of matching gaps as well in like HR software. That seems to be quite, and talent pooling and things like that.
Yeah.
But what's interesting as well, as we speak about recruitment, is a survey that Indeed did on UK businesses, employers spend around 37% of their time on recruitment tasks. So things like hiring activities, interviews, scoring, or sourcing the applicants in the first place. Right. So if you think about that, it's quite a hefty part. So if technology could kind of alleviate that time and effort, then you're kind of saying, actually, so one, technology could pick up maybe deceptive CVs or applicants that just don't quite match.
Yeah.
And then actually when you look at time and effort, it could be saving your employer's time, so your manager's time or your recruitment team time.
It's the kind of AI debate, isn't it, in terms of AI, the growing role of AI in HR processes is that we can start to automate searches or qualifications we need so the AI can do the work of sifting through appropriate people. I don't know how this links to CV parsing.
I think CV parsing, from my knowledge so far with people first, is it takes the information and it automatically uploads.
Right, so it sifts out what you need to fill in that criteria.
Yeah, so it's time saving for the applicant and for those that are like looking through them. Yeah, so again, it's a piece of automation that I think is quite new to the recruitment industry, but really helpful because if you're not having to manually key in that information, it's hours you're saving.
It must be interesting to see how these processes can be simplified because some of the language that maybe both applicants and employers use are the things that are letting people fall into these gaps of going, oh, actually, you're not the right person, or you are, because you might be just say, I'm highly adept at X, X, and Y, or whatever. And actually, it's for the interviewer and the recruiter to go, when you mean that, what examples have you got to prove that?
Yeah,
because it's easy to say you're really good at something, but I really need to know those work-life experiences that prove you took the challenge on and the level we need.
Yeah.
Because lots of competencies that you need a job come at lots of different levels.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can have someone on their CV that can say, I can do X, Y, and Z, but you need them to be at a level 4, where they might only be at a level 1 of it.
Yeah.
That's the way the tricky bit is.
So they're kind of like proving that, kind of evidencing what is correct. There's kind of a couple of bullet points of what they see as kind of checks you can do.
Okay.
So to spot kind of a preventative of this fraud that they're saying it is. So you've got open source internet checks. So I think kind of like you're saying, they can go through and they can say, is that, real true? Have they got a reference? Have they got a certificate already uploaded? Things like you can contact personal and professional references. Yeah. So, it is manual, but if you phone out and you actually get that personal opinion, that is, I think, enough evidence to say, then they're being genuine about that. Okay. So the third one is checking provider documents. So we said that back in the day, we used to bring in our documents, but I think it's still important that you are proving it. Yeah. I think there's a lot of training that goes on where we kind of think, I've done that, but actually download the certificate and keep it on file to say you've already done it.
But equally, as we've discussed, I talked about it in a sense of, I talked about my qualifications from a school level or like a university level, and it would be foolish to think that that's just when it stops, right? Yeah. If you're in a career or you're in a you're on a path that you're constantly evolving in, you should always be getting these extra qualifications or kind of learning and advancing in your role. So it doesn't just stop at your late teens, 20s. You can be in your 40s, 50s, 60s and still be getting new qualifications updates. So it's actually 100%. Making sure you're collecting them and then using them on your application to prove your point. It doesn't stop at a young age.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we kind of just think, okay, task done, but actually keep a folder, because you never know when you want to pull it back out and say, actually, I have done X, Y, Z training, and you're much more advanced in that job role than maybe what you first thought you were.
So I feel like we've talked a lot about how technology and the automation of that can support the kind of the risks of recruiting the wrong people, or getting, or or sifting out the people that actually are suitable.
Yeah.
What can the in-person HR process do, the recruitment, the interview process do to stop the people who are basically blagging it getting through the net?
So I think this comes down to training. I think kind of there's always going to be a latest trend of fraud or misdeception, or there might be tips and tricks to spot them. So ultimately, I think the baseline is training. So make sure your HR managers are trained up to spot them, or to at least have that awareness. And ultimately, the recruitment team, if that's their job, they need the training to be on top of these things.
And I suppose it's working with other teams as well. Like, so recruiters will be very good at sourcing talent and making sure that they've got the roles kind of and the applicants ready. But it's the team that are recruiting will know best what the culture of their department needs, or the skills gap in the team that they're looking to fill are. So I suppose it's making sure you have a really healthy conversation between the hiring department and the recruiter to go, this is the type of personality type we're looking for, this is the dynamic that will fit in the team, and these are the specific skill sets that our team has raised that we need to fill in.
Yeah.
Like, that's what, and so you can hone and focus those kind of questions.
Yeah, which is why I think it's important that if you tick the boxes on paper, have that interview. Get them in front of the people that they are going to be working with every single day, that are going to be the key influencers. Because, like I say, I think personality is just as important to a job as the qualifications.
And equally so, and like just to spin this on the head, obviously don't condone fraud of any form of application process. But if we looked at the softer side of faking it till you make it, you can be someone who's got relevant experience, but you might be being tested at a level that you're used to, beyond what you're used to, right?
Yeah.
And I actually think there's a benefit to people taking on challenges that may be a bit more out of their comfort zone, because if you do excel at that, you can grow in a business. And I think an element of faking it to you making it is productive, providing you're doing it with a safe remit and the appropriate expectations of the level you're currently at.
Yeah.
Because there's every manager's always looking for that employee who goes, look, I know I'm a bit more junior, but I'm putting my hand up. I want to give this a crack. I think I can give a really good go at it. Worst case scenario, this will happen. But look, I'm going to learn on the job and go. And I'd be like, great, have a go at it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's development, right?
Definitely. I think that's quite a nice point to finish on, actually.
Why not?
I think that's a kind of a nice ending to say, do you know what? Challenge yourself. Have a little go at faking it till you make it.
Yeah.
Push yourself. And if you need help, reach out. But ultimately, you're going to learn, aren't you? You're going to learn that you can either do it, or you're going to learn that you needed a little bit more advice and guidance, and next time you'll give it a better go.
Just don't commit fraud.
No, that is the final word.
Brilliant. Cool. So I've been Andy.
I'm Alice. We'll see you soon next week.
Cheers.
Bye.